Okay, welcome. Thank you guys. Great. Nice turnout. Once again, welcome to the Ministry of Skepticism. This is our third sanctuary. How cool. Can you hear me in the back?
Yes.
I don't know why we put the old people all the way in the back. You guys can't hear. The wisest people. And by the way, I should be sitting back there also if we're going by age, so no offense. We tried to get the live stream up. There's something wrong with our account. It's not giving us access or even the option to live stream. So we'll try and get that sorted out. Israel, can you hear me? Alia, John, can you all hear me in the back? It's okay? So obviously we're in a new space. For those of you that are returning, this is different than the Schimmelfinnig Library. For those of you that are new, you have no idea. This is all you've ever known. But it's just kind of the lot we've been dealt. We don't have a permanent space, so we're kind of at the mercy of schedules and things like that. And so we weren't able to book Schimmelfinnigs, so we moved here. Just so you know, for the next one, we'll talk more about it at the end of the service, but we're going to move again. There's a third location we're going to end up at. So we appreciate you guys being accommodating and bearing with us. This is the third installment of our sanctuary, so there's something to be said for that. That's good, and we've got a lot of returning faces and some new faces, so welcome you all, and thank you so much. Today's theme is compassion. Last time we talked about fallibility. We'll talk a little bit more about how we arrive at those themes, how they fit into the context of the framework, the religious framework that we've got here. Our incandescent speaker today is Dorothee. Thank you, Dorothee. We're looking forward to that. I'll be giving an illumination, talking about compassion a little bit from a skeptical perspective. And today is my father's birthday. Yeah. So, yeah. We'll have a sanctuary here in the morning, and then this evening we'll have dinner. So looking forward to that. Happy birthday, Dad. And this month is Halloween, which I feel like, should be kind of our holiday. And, as hopefully as this thing grows and we move on, maybe we'll be able to devote more time and energy to that. But I think that it's worth at least acknowledging, because I think Halloween is a fun holiday, and it's not overtly religious, and it is in every way aesthetic. And I think our aesthetic in a lot of ways aligns with that. And also, the one thing I will say about Halloween this year is that lanterns are perfectly suited to Halloween decor. And so if any of you don't have lanterns yet, and I don't know why most of you would, it's a good excuse because every store has them now. There's all kinds of lanterns. They're all fun and cute. And so I will encourage you to get lanterns. Have lanterns in your home. Make it part of your Halloween decoration. Put a lantern out with your out with the candy on your porch. Just in some small way, it kind of like binds us as a community and starts to spread the light a little bit. So it's kind of a fun way to get into it. And just so you know, all three of these I got at Michael's. They have different sizes. I got the big one. I got the two smaller ones. I picked these because I was trying to find lanterns that most closely matched our logo. But there's all kinds of cool lanterns out there. So get a lantern. And if you post them on social for you young people, you can tag MoS. We have an Instagram account. That'll be cool. In this ceremony, we will have rituals. We have prayers. Again, some of you are new, so trigger warning if you're uncomfortable with that kind of stuff. We are going to do it, and you're all encouraged to participate. We have some call and response prayers. We say, "Let it be so" at the end of prayers. No one's obligated to say anything. You're under no pressure or obligation. Do whatever feels comfortable for you. But we are building a sense of community. And we want to create a sense of transcendence. So we do have some rituals and ceremonies, and the lanterns will play a part in that. We'd like to start with a quote that really, I think, perfectly expresses and articulates kind of the charge and the mission, what we're doing here. It's a quote from Carl Sagan, who is, hi, come on in, of course. Hi, you guys. I heard y'all came last week, so y'all were really early, and now you're just a little late. On balance, you're still ahead of the curve, so thank you. Oh, this is a progressive church. You don't have to sit behind the man. You guys are welcome to sit next to each other. No, do whatever's comfortable, but you can also choose to sit behind the man. That's up to you. No pressure. No rules. But so let's call up Ian Schuessler. He's going to read this first quote. And is he already on?
Should be. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Not through the mic. I'll just speak loudly, I guess.
Oh, I see. It's turned back. Okay.
Is
Perfect.
it working?
Yep.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. I think this is a timely quote since all of a sudden it's like communicating with a supreme being is a business plan that, in fact, it's like most of our economy right now. So here we go. Science is not only compatible with spirituality, it is a profound source of spirituality. When we recognize our place in an immensity of light years and in the passage of ages, when we grasp the intricacy, beauty, and subtlety of life, then that soaring feeling, that sense of elation and humility combined, is surely spiritual. So are our emotions in the presence of great art, or music, or literature, or acts of exemplary selfless courage. The notion that science and spirituality are somehow mutually exclusive does a disservice to both.
Let it be so.
Let it be so.
Thank you.
Let it be so.
I don't need that either. Thank you. Awesome. And so this is another thing that we have incorporated. You will notice we're going to call up different people to read different prayers throughout the sanctuary service here. Ian, thanks for getting that started for us. That was really nice. And yes, Carl Sagan expressed it like really eloquently. It's unfair. It's an unfair trick that religious-minded people play when they accuse or say that people who don't have use for or belief in deities, that we don't have access to spirituality or that we can't live spiritual lives. This religion is a counterpoint to that, a counterfactual. So why a religion? We've talked about this in the past couple of services. For those of you that are new, this is always a question that comes up. Why a religion? For people that are not conventionally religiously minded, religion can feel kind of unsavory. We're not comfortable with it necessarily. It brings some baggage. Oh, yeah. Thank you. That's right. I forgot. We went through all the trouble of setting up this thing. So let's see if I can get back on. And so now we've got some kind of, like, as we've been talking about, now we can have distilled it down into some bullet points. And so we'll just kind of briefly go through some of the ideas why a religion. And one is the fact that we're all here, right? We long for community. This kind of gets to the point that Carl Sagan was making. Just because we don't necessarily have faith in or belief in a deity, and by the way, we're always careful to point this out, that is not a prerequisite to being here or to participating in the Ministry of Skepticism. It doesn't matter what you believe. Your beliefs are your own. You're welcome to believe whatever is personal and important to you. That is a personal decision. That is up to you. But neither belief nor the absence of belief are prerequisites to participation in the Ministry of Skepticism. Claims that you hope to have validated or verified, we do ask for evidence. I mean, that is the skeptical approach to claims. But anything that is personal for you, that is meaningful for you, that is your own business. But so we long for community. We long for fellowship, a sense of ritual and ceremony. And we want to address the questions that religions typically address. Things like meaning and purpose, address feelings of insignificance, our own mortality. We can approach all these questions and concerns from a rational, scientific perspective, empirical perspective. We also want to codify our values, the lessons and the teachings that we learn from science and skepticism. We want a way to standardize them and also make them more transmissible so we can share them within communities, share them with our children, pass them on within a structured framework. Religions are good at doing that. We should be able to do it also. And you don't wait to teach what's important. Christianity, Judaism, Islam, they have churches. They send their kids to Sunday schools. They have after class Bible studies. Religions don't wait for anyone else to teach their kids what's important to them. They do it themselves. They take the initiative. We are creating a space. We are creating a means by which we can transmit the ideas that are important to us. We don't wait for someone else to do it. And if you're just uncomfortable with the label of religion, we've talked about this a little bit, but I can't think of a better label. So if anyone has a better idea, we're open to it. But religion works. It is proven. And we all understand what it means when we talk about a religion, that we are going to be talking about these, about things like purpose and meaning. And it is working. This is our third sanctuary. You guys are here. We're gathered together in this space. Hello, morning. Morning, morning. I bet you never heard that one before. It's Arthur's birthday. But so this is evidence. All of you guys are evidence. The fact that we are here is proof that we're on to something. Whatever that may be, this fledgling thing, this Ministry of Skepticism, we are on to something. As further evidence to that point, I'd like to share with you a message that I got through the Instagram account, the Ministry of Skepticism Instagram account. As a little bit of background, I was on a rollerblading podcast because I used to be a professional rollerblader, if you didn't know. But locally, we have a rollerblading podcast called Rollerblading is Still Fun. And none of those guys are here. What the heck? Skaters. I bet they're sleeping. Yeah, they're local. There's Zach. I don't believe that you didn't know what location. I know we've told you personally. I'm sure Joby knew the right location. Okay, yeah. Okay, but I'm glad you guys are here. Glad you can make it. Do you guys have the new prayer books? Oh, Israel's getting them for you. Thank you. So we got this message on our Instagram account, and I'm going to share it with you guys now because I just thought it was great, and it really is a validation of what we're doing here. However small, it just felt really important. He says, "Hey, I was a skateboarder most of my life, but now that I'm 35, my direction has gone into aggressive inline after buying my first pair of blades. I ended up falling into a rabbit hole of documentaries, videos, old competitions, and seeing what's happening in the world now. I stumbled upon the podcast Arlo was on, and when he spoke about the Ministry of Skepticism, it really piqued my interest. I've kind of been searching for something like this. I just didn't know what it was until now. I've now watched Michael Shermer's TED Talk, and I plan to read his book, Why People Believe Weird Things. It will be a challenge because I suck at reading, but I also just got the audiobook of Carl Sagan's The Demon Haunted World and plan to listen to it at night before going to bed. It's a lot to take in, but at the same time, all of them are a wealth of knowledge. I'd like to join your ministry, and I look forward to the 18th. How cool is that? And he's not local. He was writing from Pennsylvania, so I invited him to join the live stream, and now we don't even have a live stream. But we will. This is being recorded. We will get the edit up. And the last service has been edited. It is up on our YouTube. If you guys haven't seen it yet, it's on YouTube on the Ministry of Skepticism YouTube channel. You're welcome to check it out. And we will continue to do that. We will get these things up onto YouTube, and hopefully we will provide this one for our followers that aren't local. But what a really great message to receive and a real validation of what we're doing. He didn't even know what he was looking for until he saw it. That's why we're doing this. And so here we are gathered in this congregation, earnestly trying to start a new religion that reflects our values. Hopefully in some way this will help to promote our values out to the world, not just within our community. So to that end, I would like to call up Max. Let's make sure that Max's mic is on. And he'll read a prayer to welcome and introduce us to this space. I want my coffee.
Understandable. Sanctuary. This is a space of sanctuary. All are welcome here. There are no ideas that are forbidden, no questions that are off limits. Beliefs are personal. Each of us is free to determine how we ascribe value and meaning. In this space, claims are neither accepted nor rejected by decree. We do not offer a fixed set of laws. There is no canon, and there are no commandments. We offer patience, and fellowship, and the tools to guide you in your own pursuit of truth. Skepticism is a process, not a position. Believe what you will, what is private and personal is your own business, but for anything that can be measured or quantified, or that you hope to have validated or affirmed, so long as you are willing to follow the evidence in good faith, wherever it may lead, then you are welcome in this space. You will find sanctuary here.
Let it be so.
Let it be so.
Excellent. Thank you. So today's theme is compassion. And this gives us an opportunity to talk about a little bit about the structure, the framework of this religion, how we arrive at our themes. The theme for the last sanctuary was fallibility. So I do have a visual aid here. There's the beacons there. So what you see here on the banner, that's also up on the screen, we've got the 5 beacons: self-awareness, empathy, morality, reason, agency. But what I really want to show you is the entire framework here. Within each beacon, we have a revelation. So the revelation for self-awareness is that I exist. And the revelations all follow kind of naturally from each of the beacons. Underneath the revelations, what follows from the beacon through the revelation becomes a virtue. So the virtue that follows naturally from the revelation that I exist is that I am curious. And there are 2 virtues. The second one is I am fallible, but the second virtue we consider less intuitive. The second virtue we call a discipline because it requires work. In a lot of cases, it can be counterintuitive. Recognizing that I am fallible is the discipline, in this case, for the first beacon of self-awareness. So I am fallible. Fallibility was the theme of the last service. It was under the beacon of self-awareness. So all we're doing is moving through the beacons sequentially. So the next beacon is empathy. So we've just chosen, essentially at random, something within the beacon of empathy. And in this case, we're talking about compassion. So I am compassionate. That's how we arrived. And so for the next sanctuary, it will be something within morality. And if I was better prepared, I would already know which one it was. But just so you know, it will be something within morality. But so that's just kind of a little bit of insight into the structure here. The whole purpose, the whole point of this thing, because there are no new ideas here. This is not a religion of divine knowledge. There's nothing that is sacred or secret, or that there's nothing special about me or about this religion, really. We're just taking what's already known within science and skepticism. But if there is anything that's novel about what we're doing, it's just creating the framework within which to talk about these things. So that's what this is. And this is open to review and revision, just like anything in science. So don't consider anything here fixed or etched in stone. We welcome feedback, and it has been changing as we've been going, and we expect that to continue to happen. In fact, I just had a pretty significant change in my approach as I was preparing for this sanctuary, which maybe I'll talk about a little bit later, or maybe not. We'll see. Oh, shoot. If I tease it, I may as well. So these are the 5 beacons, and the 5 beacons are based on stages of cognitive development, the first 4, and the last one is based on evolved preferences through genetics. So, agency, it kind of describes our motivations, our wants, our desires. From a rational perspective, we understand those things from a kind of an evolutionary perspective. And then the first 4, I said, are stages of cognitive development. And this is where kind of my thinking changed as I was researching this. But I've been referring to them as the 4 stages of cognitive development. But there are actually 4 stages of cognitive development that are recognized and widely adopted within psychology. They were defined by Jean Piaget. Dorothee coached me on the French pronunciation of that. Thank you. And so I don't want there to be any confusion between kind of what's already accepted, the accepted literature out there. And so I thought us calling it the 4 stages of cognitive development when there are 4 stages of cognitive development might be a little confusing. So I changed it to 4 milestones of cognitive development because they are in every way still significant milestones, features of cognitive development. They are different than something that already exists as a description out there. And maybe Joby can appreciate that since she is a professional psychologist. The last sanctuary, I said we were talking about fallibility, and I couldn't think of any times when I'd ever been wrong. I don't know if this exactly rises to that, but it is a case of revising, your approach, your opinion based on new information. So that's what we're doing. And I think that is really in the spirit of skepticism. By the way, you all have prayer books. So as we bring people up to read the prayers, and these beacons now are in the prayer book also. They're somewhere in the beginning. So whereas we have produced new prayer books for each sanctuary so far, at least we hope to get to a point where we kind of don't have to keep doing that. That will just sort of be evergreen for a while. And maybe this is pretty close to that. But we've added some kind of like introductory big picture stuff at the beginning. So it starts with an intro, explains a little bit about what Ministry of Skepticism is. It's got the beacons in there, so you can reference this thing that I've got up on screen. And all the prayers are in there if you want to follow along or read with anything that we're presenting here today. So let's talk about today's theme, which is compassion, which we can see is right here in the beacon of empathy. And empathy comes from the real cognitive, the real insight from cognitive development is theory of mind, right? The idea that we know that other humans have thoughts and motivations that are different than our own, but critically, that they have them at all. If you point at something expecting your cat to look at it, they're not going to do it. They don't understand that, right, that these actions are motivated, that there are intentions behind our movements. Babies do recognize that. It doesn't take long before a baby understands when you point at something or when you look at something that there is motivation behind that. So even though a baby doesn't know it, and probably most of us don't know it, that it has a name, that we are operating with a theory of mind. It's just we understand that other people have thoughts. And so this theory, and we use this theory of mind to guess and explain other people's behavior. One of the interesting things about psychology, or these kinds of empirical insights, is that they're validated by the absence of these things, or when we see divergent models. So you can imagine that in case of like ADHD or autism or schizophrenia, this theory of mind has not developed the same way that it has in most of us. And so you see people who might struggle with understanding the motivations and intentions of other people. But so even in the divergent models, it helps us really to understand what's happening within the brain. And since we have a lot of neuroscience students in here, I guess it's worth acknowledging that the area of the brains associated with theory of mind are... Do you guys know what they are? I hope I do. Prefrontal cortex and the... Yeah. Temporoparietal junction. Where two lobes come together. But absolutely, that's exactly right. But so again, you look skeptical of the claim. You don't. Okay. You're naturally skeptical. Huh? What? We're going to talk about the amygdala. I'm glad you brought that up. So keep that in mind. But so there are actually neurological insights. So we've got psychological insights, we've got neurological insights. All these things bring us to a better and more complete understanding of what's happening within the brains. But so our behaviors can be described in this way. And this kind of brings us to one of the special conditions of this religion, is that we don't need additional ingredients beyond that to kind of explain things like empathy. If we understand how empathy can arise from just the awareness that other people have thoughts and feelings and desires, and we can imagine what our own feelings feel like, so it's not hard to imagine other people having feelings or desires similar to those. And I should point out, just in an abundance of caution or sensitivity, because we acknowledge that there are people, not all people are wired the same. There are people who lack some of these skills, who are not as empathetic, maybe don't have empathy. There's nothing good or bad about that. It is just different. And it is possible for those people to be constructive, productive members of society just like anyone else. Just the tools and the techniques that they have to use to function with and get along with the rest of us are probably a little different. But the more we understand how the mind works and what's actually happening from a natural perspective, the easier it is to deal with those things and to help those people. Whereas under a different model or in a different time, you might have just said that those people were evil or bad or something like that, a judgment that is unfair and unhelpful. This is going to be something that we talk a lot about today, but that's why a skeptical approach to these ideas can lead to a more humane, more compassionate outcome. So the theory of mind was first introduced by psychologists back in 1978. We don't just see what other humans are doing, we also imagine their intentions. Toddlers start developing this from a very early age. They understand that we are driven by goals. Like we said, they'll understand what it means if you point, they understand what it means if you look at something. But what toddlers don't understand is necessarily, and we're talking about up until about the age of 3, toddlers have a very egocentric view of the world. Anyone that's ever had kids knows that. You can see that. But from a psychological perspective, it is absolutely true. They struggle to understand that people have different, have feelings and desires that are different than their own. The seminal tests that demonstrate this are the false belief tasks, right? These are classic studies within psychology. A classic example would be if you put a toddler here, a young child, with this lantern on the table, and Augustine is sitting here with the young child. And then we have Augustine leave the room, and then a researcher comes in and moves the lantern and hides it behind the lectern. The young child sees you move it, and then you bring Augustine back in and you ask the young child, well, where does Augustine think the lantern is? The young child, because the child saw you move it, they know where it is. They'll think he knows where it is because they don't recognize it. Other people don't know what they know. And so the child will say he thinks it's behind the lectern. Up until about 4 years old, this is when you see this big change, this big shift in cognitive development. Run the same experiment, bring Augustine back in the room. A 4-year-old will recognize that Augustine wasn't in the room. He doesn't know where it is. That's a demonstration of the false belief task. But it's through clever insights like this. This is the power of science and empirical observation, is we can get real insights into what's happening. And these are reliable and repeatable. That's science. So this theory of mind, this idea that other people have thoughts, beliefs different than our own, but they also have feelings, it lays the foundation for empathy and compassion. Empathy is the ability to imagine the feelings of others and to share them. We've felt a certain way. We can imagine other people might feel a certain way. But then compassion is the desire to help. So if empathy is understanding that people have beliefs, compassion is the desire to help. So what is skepticism? Skepticism is an approach to knowledge that emphasizes evidence-based reasoning and critical thinking. It prioritizes empirical evidence and reproducibility over intuition and personal beliefs. It is not denialism. Deniers like anti-vaxxers and moon landing deniers and flat earthers, they are not skeptics. Their beliefs are driven by something much closer to a religious way of thinking. It's certainly much closer to kind of religious belief than to serious inquiry. Deniers begin with a premise. There is some narrative that they are attracted to, and then they seek out evidence that confirms that premise, and they either ignore or distort evidence which does not support that premise. So in that way, they are not motivated by truth. They're not trying to get to the truth of a thing. They're motivated by a narrative that is entirely different than the skeptical process. Within skepticism, we are motivated only by the evidence. We follow the evidence wherever it may lead. It has nothing to do with our personal opinion about the conclusions. You just follow the evidence. James Randi, who, by the way, we are about to celebrate the anniversary of his passing. He passed October 20th in 2020. But James Randi was a magician, stage performer, but also a seminal skeptic. I used to attend the annual Skeptics Conference in Las Vegas, and it was named for the amazing James Randi. It was called the Amazing Meeting. And he had an educational foundation, the James Randi Educational Foundation, so a really important figure in the scientific skepticism movement. But he had a quote that said, "Those who believe without reason cannot be convinced by reason." And that's true. They're just playing by a different playbook. For people who don't arrive at their conclusions from the evidence, they're not going to be moved by the evidence. It's not how they form their beliefs. So skepticism is not the same thing as denialism. And it's also not common sense. Our intuitions can be misleading. We can be misguided through logical fallacies and our cognitive biases. So skepticism is absolutely not just common sense. It is actually a trained approach to thinking. And so to that end, we've given all of you prayer books, but you've also got a skeptic's toolkit. And that is taken 100% from Carl Sagan's book, The Demon Haunted World. It has a chapter in here that includes a baloney detection kit. And it's got some introduction to the skeptical ideas, but it's also got an introduction to actual cognitive biases and logical fallacies. So I encourage you to familiarize yourself with those things. And that book, Demon Haunted World, this book was written in the 90s, a long time ago now. There's a lot of other literature that has come out since then that expands on these ideas. So certainly encourage you guys to seek that out, much like the guy who wrote to us on the Instagram account. He's already looking up, Michael Shermer's book, Why People Believe Weird Things. He's listening to The Demon Haunted World. And I think one of the things that we will do also is put together kind of a library, a starting place for people, a resource that we can put on the website to help people with stuff like that. Instead of going through the entire Skeptics Toolkit, I encourage you guys to do that on your own. There is a logical fallacy that I'd like to address specifically, and I think that it is meaningful and useful within the context of this discussion about compassion. But it is a fairly well-worn, informal logical fallacy that I think probably most of us are aware of. It's the straw man fallacy. And that is just when you misrepresent your opponent's position to mischaracterize it into something that is much easier to knock down than the point that they're making. That's why you call it a straw man. You basically create a caricature, perhaps, of their position. An example would be if you notice a rise in thefts in your apartment complex. People are stealing Amazon packages. And so you suggest to management that they install more cameras. And if your neighbors then say, well, what's the matter? You don't trust us? You don't trust your neighbors? Well, that wasn't the point that you were making. They have mischaracterized your position into something that is much harder to defend. No one wants to sound like you don't want to defend the position. You don't trust your neighbors. And so that kind of interaction, that kind of response, this kind of fallacy, it basically eliminates or it retards the ability to communicate, to find common ground, to understand each other's positions. It derails a dialogue. And the reason that that's meaningful today within the context of compassion is because compassion is all about understanding. It's about trying to understand the positions of others, to be sympathetic. And something that's important to note about these fallacies, about logical fallacies, they're not rhetorical tactics. It's not like we choose, it's like, he's coming, he's going to put in, he wants to put in cameras. I know exactly the way to scuttle that idea. They happen outside of our awareness. Most of the time, we're not aware that we're doing it, that we've done. And the real power of acknowledging and recognizing logical fallacies and cognitive biases is not so you can identify them in other people. That is helpful. So you can recognize them in yourself. We recognize them in ourselves because we're all guilty of these things and they happen mostly outside of our awareness. That's why that is the power and the beauty of skepticism. It's why we have the beacons. It's why we have this church, is to bring these things to our attention because they can improve our lives and our relationships and help us to build stronger, more understanding communities. So now, how can we do that? The opposite of straw manning is what? Certainly someone knows. Is steel manning, absolutely, 100%. This is a technique that we can, whereas we may straw man unknowingly, unwittingly, we can absolutely make a deliberate, conscious effort to steel man the positions those around us. Whenever we encounter a position that we are uncomfortable with or that we disagree with, instead of attributing the worst intentions or the least charitable interpretation of those ideas, we can steel man and try to understand from the other's perspective. So one of the things that I hope we'll come away with today in this conversation about compassion is the value of steel manning your arguments, the arguments of your adversaries, or anyone that you might find otherwise undeserving of your charity. We're going to have more conversations about compassion when we get into the incandescence and the illumination, kind of the sermon portions of this. But some notes that I will throw out there as things that we will go deeper into later. But it's easy to be compassionate toward the needy. That is kind of built into us. Intuitively, we recognize that. And so there is limited value in a church or me standing up here and encouraging you guys to be compassionate toward those that are suffering or in need. That is an important characteristic, and I hope that we will encourage that. 100% we encourage that. But I don't need to tell you to do that. You're naturally sympathetic to those people. Growth comes from learning new skills. We are a church with the idea of helping us all to grow and become the best versions of ourselves. So we're trying to expand our perspectives, expand the sphere of our compassion to reach more people. All right. Celina, can you see me? I know something's about to happen. But so we're ready to officially start the service. This is where we're going to get into some of the prayers and the rituals of the service. And this will start with Israel. I think now it's time to get the lantern. That's right. So Celina is going to read the prayer. So we'll call up Celina. We open up the service with the lighting of the lantern, so that when all of you have your Halloween lanterns, we'll show you how easily they can be lit and placed on your doorsteps. I've got Celina doing double duty. I have her starting the music, but then she's also going to read the prayer. I could have done better to help you with that. Okay. Oh.
Start reading. We light the candle to remind us of the light of reason, the source of meaning and wonder in the world. And just as we light the candle, let us remember how the light was ignited in each one of us as we were born curious and craving affection. We close the candle in the lantern to remind us that the light must be protected. Just as the light can be nurtured through the virtues of compassion and skepticism, so too can it be extinguished through fear and ignorance and neglect. Let each of us embody the light through the rigorous study and application of skeptical values. Let us spread the light through our shining example and through education and outreach. And let us protect the light by standing up for science and reason wherever darkness gathers. Be the light, spread the light, protect the light. And we repeat together. Be the light, spread the light, protect the light. Let it be so.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Can I get one of the prayer books up here, please? Thank you. So we discussed the beacons. We've got the entire framework here, and the beacons are in the prayer books. We have this entire grid built into the prayer book. We also have a prayer within the prayer book called Beacons because it discusses the beacons in a little more depth and from a more enlightened, transcendent approach. Whereas I'm standing up here and kind of talking about things in more clinical, perhaps academic terms, the prayers are a way to engage with these ideas in a more meaningful, more personal way. Within this beacon prayer, you'll notice that we have each of the beacons are addressed, each of the revelations are included, and each of the virtues and the discipline are also acknowledged within each of the sections within the beacons prayer. So I'd like to call up Josie. She's going to guide us through a call and response.
Do I go up now?
So within the prayer book, if you've got your prayer books, there is a bold section. Josie will be reading the bold, and then all of us will be responding to the I'm a graphic designer. I should know what this is called. The standard weight, maybe.
Thanks.
What do y'all call it? Non-bold. But see, around here, we don't, no one wants to be identified just as the absence of something, right? We are not just the absence of belief in deities. We are offering something. So the non-bold type weight is not just the absence of bold. It is something. So it is the standard weight, I think. Okay. Glad we, that is, if we've accomplished nothing else here, that is, we're restoring the dignity in standard weight fonts.
So it's not bold is the answer?
You're reading, no.
Okay.
You know what, maybe we'll get someone else to read this.
Self-awareness is the greatest miracle in the universe.
I exist.
I am how the universe thinks about itself.
I nurture curiosity and acknowledge my fallibility.
Empathy connects me to other sentient beings like me.
Others exist.
I am not alone.
All are deserving of compassion and charity.
Morality lays the foundation for well-being and coexistence.
Right and wrong exist.
I prefer well-being over suffering.
All are entitled to justice without prejudice and honesty without bias.
Reason elevates my ability to engage with and understand the world.
Truth exists.
Nature is revealed through an evidence-based process of observation and testing.
I am thoughtful with my questions and rigorous with my answers.
Agency empowers my existence.
Existence is meaningful.
I evolve to have wants and desires. I am motivated by love, curiosity, and creativity.
My dispassionate pursuit of truth makes my existence both rational and fulfilling.
Let it be so.
Maybe so. Thank you, Josie. And so we can see there that this adds color and depth to the beacons. Here we just have kind of a grid, but through this prayer we kind of understand a little more deeply and intimately what it's about. So thank you for that, Josie. And also what happened? Thank you. Did she leave? She's done. All right, I'm out of here. I did my part. But also a little bit because of all the things we've done so far, at least in terms of like ceremony, ritual, and prayers, that so far I probably has felt the most kind of like religious-y, like doing the call and response thing. And one of the reasons I had Josie read that is because the feedback she gave to me after the last service was because we grew up Jewish, we went to synagogue, but most every church has that kind of thing, a call and response feature. And when you do that and you sit in a congregation, if you're not totally aligned with the message, it can feel kind of unsettling, like you're just signing on to or endorsing an idea that you may not necessarily agree with, and you're doing it kind of mindlessly. It's kind of a group think. She said, but when we did this last time in the last service, reading these words, which she does align with, it changes your feeling, your relationship to that kind of ritual. She was happy to be saying these things with a congregation of people that also shared those values. So that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to rebuild rituals and ceremonies around the values that we share and that we can endorse. So I'll just wait till Josie gets back before we move on. Okay, so now we can move on. All right, so we have one more prayer before we're going to take a short break. This is a prayer of gratitude. It really is remarkable to be in a space like this. This is our third sanctuary. We keep getting a good turnout. There is so much to be grateful for. I, for one, am grateful for this community and the support. The fact that you guys are here and that we keep coming back and we keep spreading the word, and there are new faces coming. Some people make the trip to come out just for a Saturday morning service. And for young people, that is a big sacrifice. He could be out all night partying. And maybe he was. So he came straight, right, exactly. Exactly. May as well stay up all night at this point. I wish. So to read our gratitude prayer, we're going to call up Israel.
We all have so much to be grateful for. The very fact that we are here, that any of us should exist, despite the extraordinary odds against it, is truly a miracle. And the fact that we are here, in this space, together, sharing this experience of communion and fellowship, is truly a gift worth cherishing. So let us take a moment to be thoughtful and reflect upon this blessing, to enjoy the fellowship of friends and family and neighbors as we come together to celebrate the light of reason, the virtues of skepticism, and the miracle of existence. Let it be so.
Great. Thank you, Israel. Israel said there was a chance he was going to be too loud. I don't know if he quite hit that mark, but pretty close. Now we are going to take a break. We'll take about 5 to 10 minutes. You guys are welcome to use the restroom. Don't leave just yet. I'll do like a 3, 2, 1, go. But in the spirit of gratitude, one of the things that I'd like to encourage you to do at this time is acknowledge a neighbor. If there's someone here that you haven't seen in a while, you can say hello. If there's someone you've never met before, introduce yourself. Let's take a moment to actually put into practice this moment of gratitude. But we've also got coffee in the back. We should still have some donuts left. If you need to use the restroom, let's go ahead and take that. We'll meet back here in about 5 minutes. Go ahead. Thank you.
And I've been very skeptical about religion in my life.
Yep.
And finding a space to actually find common ground with people, it's been always hard.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I always try to put reason on when I communicate with people and with friends and colleagues that are also fellow software engineers, but at the same time very religious. So I'm kind of thinking of, I'm thankful for this space and for us to be able to share. I'm learning about the framework, which is pretty straightforward to me. And one of the things I'll try to do as a go home kind of task is try to see how this maps out to the actual my friends' points of view on religions and whatnot, to see where there's a common ground and where we differ.
Yep.
So we can find the common ground where we can talk. Because I know there are people of science, and sometimes they probably feel conflicted with some of the science part and they're religious. So anyway, just wanted to say, first of all, I'm here because of my son. At the same time, I was very skeptical again, which proves that he's actually on the right place right now.
Good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for coming. You know, anytime I've had to tell so many people, hey, we've started a new religion. Any conversation that starts with that already, like, you sound insane or completely like presumptuous or whatever. Yeah, exactly. There's no easy way to approach it. So the fact that despite that, you still came, even you brought your skepticism, but you gave it a shot. And then you gave us the opportunity to demonstrate whether there was anything worth engaging with or not. So thank you for coming. And thank you for those words. It's exactly why we're doing it. you know? And yes, it's 100% about finding common ground. We did not want to create a religion that positioned itself as antagonistic to any other religions. We're not out there to denigrate anyone else's beliefs, but we do want to create a space for us, for people like you, who you said, we may not share those other beliefs, but we still long for a space and community to, be around people who share our values. And so we are carving out that space. Thank you for being here, and hopefully you'll come back. And maybe next time you'll bring someone like your son brought you.
My partner, hopefully.
Your partner, yeah, 100%. And Celina, note to self, next time we do this, I think we should be handing the extra mic out, because I know none of that will have been captured on the mic, so we can be using the second mic for that. So you mind saying that one more time? No, I'm just kidding. We'll get it next time. Any other comments? That was really wonderful. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Josie.
There are a couple case studies that really support your description of the neurodivergence and lack of empathy. And there's, I don't know if folks in the room have done any reading on the Romanian orphanage. I think it was in the 1980s. It's some pretty interesting information there. But unfortunately, the state encouraged families to, give up their children to the state orphanage, and also encouraged them to have a lot of children. And there was many, hundreds of infants in these in this Romanian orphanage, and a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists have come to, look in on them once this was discovered. And what they found was, without any human attention, right? Just simple things like basically mirroring. If an infant doesn't have a caregiver mirror emotions back to them, back and forth, and then they're just, left in cribs, fed, clothed, diapered, but no human interaction, it is a major inhibitor on developing empathy and compassion. And now these, some of these orphans have been followed, and they're like 40, 50-year-old people. And, some have done okay and some have not. But the common factor is that they really cannot have any sort of intimacy with anyone. They have very poor relationships. And, empathy, it's hardwiring, but it's also environmental as well.
That's a great point, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because this was one of the key critical insights from Piaget. Prior to his research, the prevailing wisdom was that knowledge is, there were two sort of schools of thought. Either it's innate, humans are just born with knowledge, and then it manifests over time, or it is empirical. Humans learn what they know through education, through being taught, through mimicking. Piaget's insight was that knowledge is constructed over time through interaction with the environment. So, right, it's those things working together. And so, yes, the absence of one or the other, or any special circumstances through one or the other, will have dramatic impacts on the development of the child and of the brain. And yes, thank you for saying that, Joby, as one of our resident experts. But the insights from psychology and from neuroscience help us to understand the brain and all the things that come from that, because we are our brains. All of our emotions, our empathy or our lack of empathy comes from our brains. Thank you for that. And Celina, thank you for the mic. So our next prayer is a counterbalance to the gratitude prayer. Just before the break, we read a prayer of gratitude, and we enjoyed each other's company. We thought about all that we have to be grateful for. Gratitude, in some respects, is also kind of a privilege. We are lucky to be here. It's important to remember that we don't deserve credit for our good fortune. Most of us were lucky to be born in an affluent Western society. We've not had to want for calories. We don't have major mental or physical afflictions. There's a lot that we can be grateful for that we received through no effort of our own. So we should balance our gratitude with a balanced perspective. And so the next prayer is the compassion prayer, a fitting prayer, as that is the theme for this sanctuary. Jennie is going to come up to read the compassion prayer. Thank you, Jennie.
Compassion. Even as we recount the things that we have to be grateful for, and there are many, let us also observe how much of our fate is determined by circumstances outside of our control. There is not one among us who deserves credit for choosing their genes or their parents or where or when they are born. And neither is there one among us who deserves blame for their burdens or their afflictions or their shortcomings. It is a fact of nature that our fate is neither a reward nor punishment. No one deserves praise or blame for their being. Let us view the world honestly and see each other truly and recognize that all are deserving of compassion and grace. Let it be so.
Perfect. Perfect, and that is what we're talking about today. That prayer ends with, we recognize that all are deserving of compassion and grace. And compassion and grace could have been written as compassion and charity to be more aligned with the beacons, to be more aligned with the virtues under empathy. I am compassionate, I am charitable. But I didn't want there to be any confusion when we say that all are deserving of compassion and charity. I didn't want there to be any confusion about what that meant. Not that all are deserving of our money or our service. Grace is something that we can extend to anyone at no cost to ourselves. That is being charitable. But like I said, we didn't want there to be any misunderstanding about what we're suggesting or what's being discussed here. All are deserving of our charity and our compassion. All are deserving of our most charitable interpretation of their actions or their intentions. And if we can build the habit of steel manning the positions and the actions, the deeds of others, rather than tearing them down, rather than straw manning them, then we can cultivate relationships and communities that seek understanding and common ground. This is what compassion is. It's replacing judgment with understanding. And it's replacing our desire to condemn with a desire to help. That's what we're talking about today. So to share her personal experience in this realm, our next speaker giving the incandescence presentation is Dorothee. In a conventional Christian religious service, perhaps you would have a testimony. This is kind of our version of that. We call it incandescence to stay within our beacon, our light motif. So we have, instead of a testimony in a sermon, we'll have an incandescence, which Dorothee's about to give, and then we'll have an illumination. So now, for an incandescence presentation, we'll bring up Dorothee.
I remember exactly where I was when my mother called to say my sister was in the hospital and was about to be transferred to a psychiatric facility. Until then, her life looked normal. Married, 2 beautiful young kids, a good job, and the dream house she just bought in the Belgian countryside where we both grew up. Then, one evening, she turned into someone no one could recognize. She had to be restrained and taken to the hospital by the police. I remember my mom saying, "They checked her blood, no alcohol, no drugs. They think it's behavioral." It took me a while to process the information. My sister is crazy. She's being sent to a nut house. Charlotte had always had flashes of anger. I remember her arguing with our dad so loudly I could hear the shouting from my bedroom 2 floors up. She hated being wrong and always wanted the last word. As kids, we would fight a lot. I am 2 years older, and sometimes I would push her buttons on purpose, just the right trigger words, until she would explode and I would look like the innocent one. But we also had some of my happiest moments together. Once on a bike ride, our front wheels touched and we crashed in opposite directions by a lake. There were a few seconds of stunned silence, then 5 minutes of uncontrollable laughter. So hard we couldn't even answer the strangers asking if we were okay. I return to that memory when I need a boost, a pure moment of joy and closeness with my sister. As teenagers, we drifted. We had different friends and different interests. I know following in my academic footsteps felt heavy for her. At family dinners, our dad would proudly mention my achievements and too often forget to mention hers. As young mothers, we found each other again. She seemed happy, truly acing the working mom life. When our father died suddenly 15 years ago, grief pulled us even closer. And then came my mother's call. I later learned my sister hadn't slept for over a week. Her brain, starved for rest, simply unraveled. She spent months in the mental hospital. When I was finally allowed to visit, she was heavily medicated, speaking slowly. She asked me how many children she had. She still looked and sounded like herself, but with an extremely foggy mind. This was the first of many episodes. Hospital stays, returns home, heavy medication, gradual normalcy, then relapse. Eventually, after many doctors and admissions, came the diagnosis: bipolar disorder. I witnessed a full cycle up close when she visited me in Texas about 10 years ago. She wasn't sleeping, posted nonsense on social media through the nights, and drifted further from coherence. I begged her to take a sleeping pill, to put the phone down, but she yelled at me. When she was finally admitted in Dallas, a nurse asked me over the phone, "What is she like when she's herself?" I remember answering, "She's smart, she's well educated, she speaks 3 languages. But the question stayed with me. What does herself mean? When I went to see her, I was angry. I thought she had let this happen by not sleeping, by refusing help. She told me, "Why are you mad at me? I have a disease. You wouldn't be mad if I had cancer." I answered unkindly, "I would if you'd smoke a pack a day." In my mind, she had caused this. It was her fault. I had the right to be mad at her. Around that time, I started exploring big questions. Where are we? Why are we here? What is right or wrong? What do we have control over? Books and podcasts led me to the conclusion that our world is deterministic. Everything happens for no reason. There is no purpose, just cause and effect, including in our brains. We think we choose, but we are carried along by conditions, histories, and biology. Most days I ignore that and simply experience life as it unfolds. I enjoy the highs and suffer through the lows. And when needed, I find comfort in the idea that everything is cause and effect. This has freed me from regrets. I was able to process my husband of 15 years leaving me without torturing myself about what I could have done differently to stay married. It happened, and I accept it. I focus on making the best of my divorce situation, being the best mom I can be to my 2 kids when they're with me, and enjoying being alone or in good company when they're with their dad. I wish him well. I want him to be happy and a good father to our kids. In the same way, I realize this vision is incompatible with my anger towards my sister and me blaming her for relapsing when she does. Her illness was influenced by many factors, from genetics to environment, and perhaps exacerbated by a series of circumstances, most notably the sudden death of our father. But also everything that happened before, the anger burst, the feeling of being less accomplished than me, my childhood teasing, even that bike ride laughter. One cause after another, everything everywhere nudging the next moment into place deterministically. With this new perspective, I'm able to get rid of blame and resentment when I speak to my sister. I focus on listening to her and providing support. I can dismiss the things she says when she's in a high phase. I have found a way to be compassionate. I realize that fate, including mental illness, is determined by circumstances outside of our control. No one should be blamed for their afflictions. Everyone is deserving of compassion. Last week, my sister spoke openly and courageously about living with bipolar disorder to a large audience. She said, "I'm not responsible for my illness, but I'm responsible for what I make of it." I don't fully agree with the second part, but I'm grateful her brain is wiring towards hope. I'm so proud of her. She's helping others and helping herself. And about that question, what is herself? I'm not sure any of us are a fixed self. Our selves are replacing themselves all the time. Our stories keep changing. I'm no longer the same person who began the speech. We're all changing at the speed of our neurons. Let our constant be compassion, our practice be grace. Let it be so.
Let it be so. Oh, that was great. Thank you, Dorothee. And that is the best part of this, right, is being able to share these personal stories and discuss how we can incorporate these ideas into our lives, put them into practice. Because when we talk about compassion and how, we talk about how no one is responsible for their genetics or their parents or their environment, that's one thing, to talk about them in the abstract. But when you see it in a real life, it really brings it home, puts it into perspective, makes it easy to relate to. Dorothee, thank you for sharing that. That was really, really wonderful. I'm going to give an illumination here, a brief illumination. But it follows some of the ideas, some of the themes that Dorothee presented and introduced. And in particular, this idea, what is a self? Who are we? And how much are we responsible for what our brains do? I see right here that we have a Texas UT shirt. So I know we've got some UT alums here. Most of us in Texas will remember the Charles Whitman. He was the shooter from the main building tower at UT in Austin. Charles Whitman stabbed his mother and his wife the night before going up into the main building tower and shooting 13 people, killing them. And he left a suicide note. And in the suicide note, he complained of uncontrollable violent impulses that were out of character for him. He suspected that something was not right with his brain. And he requested, because he knew that his life was about to end also, he requested that an autopsy be performed on his brain after he died. And when they did that, sure enough, they found a tumor. Ian's gone, but on the amygdala. It was about a nickel-sized tumor. And the amygdala is the region of the brain associated with impulse control and the regulation of emotions and fear. So this all kind of lines up with what he suspected. And so Sam Harris recounted this story in a conversation with Daniel Dennett. These are two philosophers, also with degrees in neuroscience. And Sam Harris was making the point that however you think about Charles Whitman in the scenario, the awareness of the tumor, if that changes your feelings about his culpability in this, which for most of us, I think that it does. We feel like if not for the tumor, he would not have behaved in this way. It's hard to hold him wholly responsible for something out of his control. This tumor was not something that he chose, and it changed his behavior in a grotesque way with serious and devastating consequences. But if not for the tumor, none of this would have happened. So certainly, had he lived, he would be held to account. There was a need for him to pay a price for that. But it changes our idea about justice and punishment in that sense, especially if we knew we had a way to remove the tumor. Then what do you do for this person who no longer has that lack of impulse control, those difficulties regulating emotions? But Sam Harris's point was bigger than that, because his point was what's true for Charles Whitman is true for all of us. It's tumors all the way down. None of us choose our brains. We don't get to choose how our brains regulate our emotions or our impulse control. This is kind of what's meant when we talk about a deterministic approach to morality and compassion. The idea that we don't choose our brains. We're not in control of our brains. Our brains are in control of us. But this does not absolve us of accountability. This is, I think, one of the bugaboos that people run into when they start being introduced to these ideas. It's like, oh, if we don't choose our brains, if Charles Whitman is not responsible, then I guess it doesn't matter what any of us do. There's no reason for jails or punishment or any of that. It's just let everybody do what they'll do because no one has any control. Well, that's not exactly right, because our brains are who we are. Our brains control our actions, and our brains are still receptive to praise and to punishment. They're receptive to incentives and deterrence. And punishment, remember, is not just for the victims. It's not just about justice for the victims. We also want punishment for the perpetrators as perpetrators. Whenever we commit a transgression, we want a chance to atone and to pay back our debt. So praise and punishment don't go away just because no one chooses their genes or their parents or their brains. But we increase our compassion and our humanity by shifting our focus away from blaming people for their brains or their shortcomings or past deeds. But we redirect instead our focus to helping people heal and rehabilitate and improve their minds and their behaviors and their deeds. This approach to compassion takes work. It's not intuitive. It's like our disciplines, right? We introduce ideas here that are not intuitive. It's why we talk about them. These are opportunities to expand our perspective, to expand our sphere of compassion. It's easy to care about the sick and the suffering, and we want to do that. There is virtue in that, but it's self-evident. It's intuitive. It's easy. Doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. Absolutely do it. But you don't need me to tell you that there's virtue in that. And not surprisingly, most churches have programs to help the needy. Outreach for the homeless, get food and clothing for shelters. When we say that all are deserving of compassion and grace, we really mean it. In much the same way that you learn how to really test your commitment to free speech when you encounter speech that you find objectionable or that you disagree with. To what extent are you willing to defend someone else's right to say things that you don't like? That's when you really find out how committed you are to free speech. Similarly, when you are confronted with people whose behavior you might find abhorrent, how much are you willing to extend compassion to those people? That's when you really test your compassion, your capacity for compassion. So one of the things that I'd like to do with this illumination, this is a workshop. We mentioned that we want this thing to be interactive. This is not just a one-way thing. So the thing that I would like to open up for conversation or for consideration from you guys, from our community, for consideration, because we are a church. We want to have outreach. There are things that we want to do. Victoria's not here, but we've had people that have talked about it. Like, we want to start doing those kinds of things. It's one of the things that when you come together as a community, there's power in that. We have the ability to help people. And yes, we can help the needy. That should certainly be part of our charitable portfolio. But I also want us to think about things that are on brand for the Ministry of Skepticism, things that really exemplify and demonstrate our commitment to a skeptical approach, a rational approach to compassion. Who are the people that might otherwise be neglected or not get the same consideration? The criminals, juvenile delinquents, troubled teens, I think that there's a lot of room for us to explore ways that we can help people who, through no fault of their own, just might have ended up with really bad circumstances. Some people just get a bad draw in life. And it doesn't mean that they are beyond help or that they're not deserving of our compassion. All are deserving of our compassion and grace. So help me think about that. Help us think about that. If you have ideas, we have an Instagram. You can send us messages. Most of you have our numbers. You can text or call directly. And certainly, if we want to go, anyone that's coming out to the coffee shop, we can talk about this further. This is an ongoing enterprise project. It's an ongoing conversation. So there'll be lots of occasions to dive deeper into this. But I'd like to open up that conversation, get those wheels turning. And another angle, I should say, as long as we're talking about being on brand, kind of the purpose of this is to talk about, what kind of service can we offer to communities? Well, the other one is education. We have educators here, science educators. How can we encourage and promote that? Help the science teachers, help the science departments, get books into schools, get a copy of The Demon Haunted World into every library. These are the kinds of ideas we're looking for. Yes, we can collect food and clothing for needy people, but we should also make sure that we have things that we are doing that exemplify what our specific mission is, as the Ministry of Skepticism, that exemplify our skeptical ideals. That needs to be an important part of our message. We want everything that we do to be on brand. We want to have a clear message. So let's think about that. All right, so now we're going to move into the closing parts of the ceremony. The next prayer is going to be read by Alia, and she is going to talk about meaning, read a prayer about meaning. Following this idea that, that we are our brains. Our brains are 100% responsible for our experience and our connection to existence. The biologist E.O. Wilson, in his 1998 book, Consilience, wrote, "The human condition is the sum of the experiences of the brain. It is an illusion to think we can discover meaning apart from it. Everything that we know, everything that we can know, is in our brains." A common criticism leveled against non-theistic religions is that they render life meaningless. And if there is no creator, and there's no afterlife, then where does meaning come from? What's the point, they might say. But this is at odds with our lived experience. Our lives are imbued with meaning. We feel it in our relationships and in our emotions. When we love, when we laugh, when we cry. We feel it in our work and in our art. When we're proud and when we're moved. Our lives are rich and full of meaning. This is abundantly clear. There's no doubt that our brains are the source of all of this. The burden is on those making the claim that there must be something more outside of existence, outside of our brains, that is the source of meaning. Where is the evidence for that? Our claim to meaning is natural and self-evident, and not in need of any further supposition. Now we'll bring up Alia to read our meaning prayer.
I'm a science educator. Neil deGrasse Tyson actually writes children's books, just so you'll know.
Let's get those into the schools.
Yeah, exactly. Meaning. We are how the universe thinks about itself. This is an extraordinary and extraordinarily improbable event. For the entire history of the world, over 4.5 billion years, and spanning the breadth of the entire cosmos, some 2 trillion galaxies, we are the only example, so far as we know, of the universe becoming self-aware. The universe is dark and indifferent, but every question we ask, every emotion we express, and every act we commit with purpose and intent shines a light brighter than any star. Meaning is illuminated only through awareness. Measured against the vastness of the cosmos, the odds of your existence are vanishingly small. It's pretty profound for me. Yet here you are, made from the same stuff found in the planets and the stars, contemplating the meaning of existence. A miracle of nature, if ever there was one. Your existence is a miracle. You are a miracle.
Let it be
Let
so.
it be so.
Great. So we have one final prayer that we'll close with. Before we do, I'll just say some closing remarks. Our next service is Saturday, November 22nd. November is a really wild and weird month. We've got Thanksgiving in that month. We've got 3 rollerblading contests that are 2 of them are out of town, one's in Frisco. But so we just tried to find the only date that would work, and that Saturday, November 22nd, which is the weekend before Thanksgiving weekend, right? So hopefully you guys will be able to attend. I understand there will probably maybe some scheduling conflicts. We know for whatever reason people aren't going to be able to make it every week. We're setting the dates, and we'll do the best we can. But it will be November 22nd, 11 a.m. It's going to be at Harrington Library. Any of you that are not following the Instagram yet, please do that, because that's where we post all the updates. If anything changes, you'll see it on the Instagram. If you ever need the info, you can find it on the Instagram. We also have a website, ministryofskepticism.org. We also always put the next meeting date on there, so you can always look at that. Quick note, we also are considering doing like a live stream meetup for people that can't be here, that aren't in town, so like the guy who wrote us on Instagram who's in Pennsylvania. I thought it might be cool to have a way where sort of we can meet together as a community like that for some out-of-towners. So that might be something to keep an eye on. Again, follow us on Instagram. That's where you'll get updates, but that's something that we are toying with right now. We're going to go to Paris Baguette on Parker Road. It's about 5 minutes from here. Normally we go to Turbo Coffee, but it's a little further now from here, so we wanted to find a place close. Dorothee recommended this place. They have coffee, they have great baguettes and pastries and sandwiches, so we think and a lot of open seating. So please join us there if you guys are available. It's Paris Baguette, and it's on Parker Road. It's the closest one to here. It's about 5 minutes from here. They do have other locations, so make sure you're going to the one on Parker Road, the closest one to here. And if anyone needs to know, you can come up to us and ask. If you enjoyed this, please come back. Those of you that are returning, thank you for coming back. We hope that you guys will keep finding something to return for, and spread the light. Bring your partner. Tell other people. If you think that there's something that they'll get out of it. If they're skeptical, give them a chance to experience it and see what they think. It might not be for everyone, but for those who do find something of meaning here, we want them to be a part of it. It's why we're here. So we open the service with a ritual consecrating the lighting of the candle. We're going to close with another ritual. So I'd like to bring up Augustine and Bella and Nick. Guys, now is your time. You can take your place with your lanterns here. And LuLu is going to read this prayer. LuLu, do you have a mic yet? Celina's coming up behind you. Each of you guys, just go ahead and stand by. Not yet, Nick.
Thank you.
We kind of did a brief walkthrough before. Go ahead and stand behind your candles. Each one of you get a lantern. Great. And then LuLu will take us through Iron and Glass is the name of this prayer.
Okay. We turn our attention once again to the lantern, an encasement of iron and glass that protects the candle burning within. The candle itself is a symbol representing the light of knowledge and reason. The light must be protected. Protect the light. Okay, you can pick them up. Now take up your lanterns and carry them out into the world. Hold them high and let their radiant light shine against the encroaching darkness of pseudoscience, superstition, and unreason. Science is a candle in the dark. The lantern is a beacon of rationality. Spread the light. Religion is a powerful tool, and we employ it earnestly in the service of our skeptical message. We acknowledge the role that narrative and ritual play in making our teachings more palatable and our lessons more transmissible. Even as our spirits are raised in transcendence, our feet remain grounded in reality. We draw a bright line between the tales that we tell ourselves and the truth. Blow out the candles. The candle carries no meaning outside of our metaphors. The lantern is just iron and glass, after all. The only source of meaning, so far as we know, is you and your self-awareness, the most extraordinary creation in all of the cosmos. You are the source of reason. You are the source of knowledge. You are how the universe thinks about itself. Feed your curiosity, sharpen your skeptical tools, spread the message of skepticism and critical thinking. You are the light. Be the light, spread the light, protect the light. Say it with me. Be the light, spread the light, protect the light. Let it be so.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you, guys. That's it. We're done. So, Paris Baguette, hopefully you guys will be able to join us. We have about 6 more minutes in this room, so we don't have to clean up. They said leave the chairs and the tables. Yeah, right. We have to clean up, but we don't have to get rid of the chairs. So hopefully you guys will be able to join us at Paris Baguette. Thank you all.